Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Ghoulish. I am Max Booth, a host, and today on the program we'll talking about indie comic books with Tony McMillen, cradle of the new comic book, Silius Rachel, available now. I was taking a sip of coffee. That's what that sound was. Now,
Ooh, I got chocolate milk here.
okay, it's not the same thing, Tony.
Damn.
Let's do this episode. I'll say hey, and then you can say hey, and then I'll ask some questions, and you can answer the questions. Ready?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey,
What's
what's up, you fuck ass shit neck?
Ooh, a direct quote. Good job.
Yeah, thank you. I was just looking at the preview, the second issue you sent me, and I saw that line and I wrote it in big caps on my notebook.
That's exactly what it was designed to do. I started calling people shitnecks like last year for some reason. I really liked it, and I had no opportunity to use it in any literary form. But recently, I was like, oh, I got to do this. It's important.
Tony,
Yeah.
that's enough chit chat from you. This is
Sorry.
this is a Silius podcast. Now you make comic books supposedly.
Right.
Okay, do you want to tell me about this new comic you have out?
I would love to. It's called Serious Creatures. It's about a teenage special effects artist who is growing up alongside the industry he's helping to create in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And so it's very loosely based on the legend of Rob Bottin, who's the guy who did the special effects for The Thing and The Howling and RoboCop and Legend. And he was basically a teenage apprentice and who started working in movies age 14. And he was actually he was on the set of Star Wars. He's one of the Cantina players.
What?
And he was I think and the best thing about that is he's on set, they're filming the most Isley stuff, and then some guy walked up to me, he's like, what do you think? And he's like, oh, it looks silly. I think this is kind of stupid. I think people are gonna laugh. And the guy's like, oh, okay. He walked away, and then someone's like said, Rob, what did George want? He's like, who's George? He's like, that's the director. He's like, oh.
Yeah. Fuck George Lucas.
Yeah, exactly. No, so I heard stories like this, and I was like, I gotta do something with this, 'cause I love special effects, and I just think there's a really cool story there, and I thought it'd be a good idea to do as a comic to have a visual component because it's such a visual thing.
I've read 1.5 issues now, and I had no idea about the true story aspect of it.
Yeah,
This is
it's one of those
pretty
things.
cool.
Yeah, his real life is kind of insane. It's basically unbelievable. Like, because it is basically his mentor is Rick Baker, who did the special effects on a million things like American Werewolf in London. But he wrote Rick Baker a letter with a drawing, and Rick Baker's like, "You're pretty good at drawing. You want to work with me on movies?" He's like, "Okay," and then he makes movies, and it's kind of
What?
yeah. And as a guy who likes to draw, I'm like, that would be great if that happened now. I'm almost 40, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm vicariously trying to enjoy this.
I have a question, Tony.
Hit
Now,
me.
I've always been under the impression that comic books were for tiny children, yet you seem to not be a child and you make comic books. And I find that I find that odd. I
Yeah.
I no.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have this bone to pick with you because, well, comics kind of ruined my relationship with my son, who I haven't seen in at least 5 years now.
Oh shit.
Yeah, one night I came into his room. You see, his name's Chad, and I came
Mm.
into his room and he had a fucking stack of comic books on his bed. Can you believe this?
I can't believe you named him Chad. Did you name him Chad? That was kind of a first mistake.
He named himself.
Okay, I
Yeah,
can understand that.
I have a lot of kids, okay, and
Right.
my whole
Mural.
routine. I don't name the kids. They can name themselves. Okay, I'm not that type of dad. But
That's pretty progressive.
yeah, I saw the comics though, and I lost my shit, Tony. I screamed at him. I'm ashamed to admit it now. I yelled. I said, "I've told you before, Chad. I don't want you to read this shit. I never saw such rotten crap in my life."
You did the absolute right thing. I would
Yeah,
never let my child read my comics,
I said,
let alone any. Yeah, I mean, other
yeah.
kids, other people's kids. I mean, that's fair game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in. I don't have any responsibility with any kids besides my 11.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
I
I feel
said,
like I feel like I'm like a bullet maker. You know, I make bullets. I don't want to use bullets on anyone I know, but I mean, anyone else have at it.
yeah, dads don't ruin kids. Comic books ruin kids. And
Love it.
I said to Chad, I said, "Who sells this to you? I'm talking to you, young man. Answer me when
Right.
I talk to you. You remember who puts the bread on the damn table?" And
Mm.
yeah, it wasn't good. He wasn't even fucking taking me serious at all. And he goes to me, and this is what my boy says. He says, "I don't see how it's any worse than the books you keep in your dresser, the ones under your underwear, those sex books." And,
Right. Right.
obviously I had to smack him then because he can't talk to your dad that way.
Directly in the face. You gotta do it.
I did, yeah. I told him, next time I find you with a worthless piece of shit like this again, you won't be sitting down for a week. You remember that. Tuck in. That was the last line I told him. Tuck in.
Tuck in. And so you haven't seen Chad for a while. That's bizarre to me. You sound like
Yeah.
you're doing everything right. You're checking all the boxes, man. I mean, sometimes you gotta divorce the kid. You know, sometimes you gotta cut and run. I think.
Okay. That was going to be my next question, Tony. I just didn't know if you had any advice as someone who makes books, comic books, despite not being a child.
Right. I no, I think my advice is definitely like if I made a bad comic or a bad kid, I'm out. And you got to do that. I mean, it's just for your own self preservation. And also, again, the Chad thing. If a kid names himself Chad, you know right there. I mean, what can you do? I mean, so I think some abortions are live past outside the womb. I think some of these kids are just God's abortion. So it's like it's not even on you.
Uh, yeah, thank you for agreeing with me. By the way,
Sure.
congratulations on having a kid.
Like, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So how long have you been reading comics anyway?
Oh, very long. I actually my one of my first memories of reading comics was I'm 37 years old, and so I was around for the big summer of Batman. So when Tim Burton's Batman was there, and I feel like there was a big push for comic books, so I started seeing them more at newsstands and in weird shops. And I remember I was at a bookstore, like a real bookstore, and I saw the Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller, and it's really it's a pretty mature book, but since it had Batman on the cover, my aunt bought it for me, and it's full of like there's like a some lady with like a chaps and like her ass exposed and swastikas on her butt cheeks, and there's
Nice.
oh, it's great. And I was like 10 maybe, and I was like, okay, so Batman's a little different in the comic books than the movies. That's cool. Okay. And so I think I was the start of me getting a little bent and getting a little warped from comic books. I was a little Chad.
Gotta tell you something. Biggest surprise of what you just told me? Frank Miller having something with swastikas? Holy shit.
Frank. Okay, Frank has gone down a dark tunnel of
Frankie
the
M.
place,
That's what I call him.
but he had some great work, and I like to think that he's kind of come back around. I don't know. I love his work up to a point. I really do. He's one of those creators where I'm like, oh god damn it, man, why did you keep living and doing crazy shit? But I mean, hey,
Yeah, I think anyone who is a celebrity, they should not be allowed to continue creating things after, like, I don't know, 15, 20 years.
yeah,
They should just
shelf
be, I
life.
don't know, shot and left in a ditch.
Yeah, with the Chads. Them the Chads. Just like put them on an island and just never come back.
Wait, do you think my son's in a ditch?
He could be. I mean, there are ditches in Texas. If he's in Texas, I don't know.
I don't know.
I've been to Texas. I've been to a ditch.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to find a ditch.
There you go. That's a good quote. That's the pool quote. It's easy to find a ditch.
I don't know. I think fuck ass shitneck is a good quote as well.
It's pretty good too. I got it from the Old Testament. I kind of rearranged some of the wording, but it's an old Methuselah quote.
Oh yeah, the book of fuck ass shitneck.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, you get it. Okay. Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
Fuck that shit neck.
Now, don't tell my son Chad this because he's probably dead and you can't. But
Right.
when I was a kid, I used to make comic books. They were not good at all. I would just fold a bunch of computer paper and then staple them and make copies, and I would sell them on my bus. When did you begin
That's
making
awesome.
comics?
I was on your bus and you didn't buy my comics, and so I was like, I gotta get better. And so it took me, 20 some odd years, but now you finally bought my comics, so I think I won.
Yeah, but I think I won because you sent me the last two for free.
Fuck, wait, did I? Shit. All right, fair enough. Good job. No, I have. When I was a kid, I did the same thing. I'd fold up paper and I'd draw comics, and it's funny. A lot of things haven't changed. Where as a kid, there would always be somebody else who'd be like, "Oh, I got this great idea. How about I just, I'll think of the idea and you draw." And I'm like, "No, fuck that. I got my own ideas. I don't need you. Like, what are you gonna supply here?" And so, nowadays I still get people going, "Oh man, we should team up." I'm like, "Okay, so what are you gonna do?" And they're like, "Well, I'll write and I'll think of the ideas." I was like, "Okay, you're gonna maybe pay me?" They're like, "Well, we'll get the money when we make the comic." I'm like, "Oh no, pass on that." But
Oh, so goes my
yeah.
next question.
Oh, end of interview. No, so I've always liked comics, but I took a big break on drawing for my early 20s. I was trying to I was in a band and I was trying to make that happen and did not happen. And then I got back into writing and then I kind of got back into drawing and eventually I was like, I should probably make a comic book again. I should try that again. I'm a little better now.
Yeah, you write novels too. You telling me that hasn't made you rich yet?
A lot of the money I give the money to the Chad Foundation. A lot of it just
Ah,
goes there. It's tax deductible, but it also makes you feel better. There's a lot of Chads out there without dads. Chads without dads, man.
now that is a T-shirt. I don't know who would have it, but it's something. What is
Yeah.
What is the dumbest comic idea you've ever had?
Oh man, I've had a few doozies. Probably that one about the teenage special effects artist.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Thanks. Well, actually, my last comic book before this was called Lumen, and I don't think this is a dumb idea, but I didn't do it. And the idea of Lumen was gonna be a fake video game, a manual for a video game which doesn't exist, so like a fake video game. Like,
Oh,
yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, but it got really convoluted. And eventually, I was like, I should just make this a normal story because it's almost too clever for its own sake. So I'm gonna probably use that again. But
yeah, please do. That's the opposite of what I asked you. That's the coolest idea you've had.
oh shit! Well, I'm working on it, man. It's gonna happen. It's gonna combine like fake video games and also a little bit of that Mandela effect kind of thing, where
Yeah,
maybe they did exist and people just kind of don't remember it for some weird reason. So that's something. But I guess all my ideas are gold, man. I guess dropping gold bricks left and right.
that's why I didn't come up with the name fuck ass shit neck. That was you. It takes talent.
It takes a big man to admit when he's not as good as the other guy. So you're very large.
I am. It's a problem.
Mm.
How do you think the whole genre translates to comics compared to like novels and movies?
It's really weird because like it's sort of like I think with this a lot where horror really works well on film because obviously the suspense is immediate. Somebody can literally jump out and scare you, although it's a little cheap, but they can do that. So you have that, and you have it's pretty easy to make that kind of scare. But then in literature, you have a longer, deeper kind of dread. You can if you do it well, which like the book The Shining. There's if you keep reading that book, it's going to take you a while. You're going to get really immersed, and you're going to get really kind of creeped out more than a movie because that's just gonna you're gonna be in that mindset for longer. So that's really good. In a comic book, I like a lot of kind of scary comics, but nothing usually scares me. Like I don't think it's as effective as literature, and I don't think it's as effective as film when it comes to actual horror. And I'm not sure why that is. It's because comic books are they're their own thing. They combine elements of film and combine elements of literature, but they're really their own thing. But for some reason, I think that's one of the genres that it doesn't do as well as the other two, personally.
Okay, I don't know enough about comics. I would have to ask my son, but he's vanished. But
Right.
I'm gonna agree with you. It's funny when I saw the original promotion of this new comic of yours. I honestly thought it was in this genre because so
Mm,
much of like the style of the illustrations will kind of cosmic. It's kind of a cool blend because it's like it's just a coming of age tale basically. It's
right.
really realistic. So it's like a cool mashup of this realism with this strange cosmical style of illustrations. Is that just how you usually draw, or did you come upon this specifically with this comic?
Thanks a lot, first off. And it's kind of a combination where I kind of tend to draw like that, but I was thinking about it. I was like, it'd be really fun to draw. I like old like Tales from the Crypt, EC comics, like creepy stuff like that. And I like cosmic dread, especially with like with my coloring. I like to do like like a rainbow oil slick kind of look where everything looks kind of dark and grimy, but it's really colorful too. And it makes me think of like otherworldly kind of cosmic stuff. So I like to do all that stuff. But I was like, it'd be kind of fun to make a book that looks like it's scary, crazy, over the top horror book, but it's usually actually funny, mundane, almost like a workplace comedy or a coming of age story. And so that as the book, the book starts out with Bobby at age 14, and he's going to get older as the book progresses, and he gets more immersed in the world of special effects. And so eventually, it is kind of like a workplace story where it's like, what are we doing today? It's like, oh, we're working on a werewolf movie. And it's like, oh, meanwhile, I got my girlfriend who's mad at me, and my buddy and me are taking acid for the first time. It's all these things are happening in his real life, but you have the fun framing device of he's designing a cool monster and a werewolf and how to make this gunshot wound come out of this guy's head for a special effect. So I just thought that'd be I thought a lot about like Boogie Nights and Goodfellas, where it's like you're just hanging out with people doing their job in those movies, really, but their jobs are really weird. Their jobs are porn actors or mobsters.
Yeah,
So I was
I
like,
love it, man.
thanks.
I'm a big fan of what I've read so far. Don't fuck it up.
I'm trying not to do issue three. I'm right now. I'm like, oh, good. I think I did good so far. So I don't want to do this bad.
So, okay, let's get into how you make these. Do you script like a whole season ahead of time, or do you take it one issue at a time? Do you call
Okay,
them
so
seasons? I don't know.
people don't usually call them seasons, but that's exactly what they're like. Like for me, this book's going to be two collections or two seasons. So there's gonna be 6 issues each, and so I basically have a very loose outline for the whole thing. And then for this first season, this first 6 issues, I have a breakdown of like the major events for each issue, and then and I had that before I started anything, and then I take it issue by issue. It's really weird writing a comic because everyone does it differently, but the way I do it, which is very odd to me, is I have like we know when we were kids and you fold paper up and you make a comic book. I do that again with a pencil, and then I also have my computer next to me. So basically, I'll draw something, and if I like how that looks, then I write down what the words will be in those pictures, and I keep going back and forth until eventually I kind of cobble together this like template. I go, okay, so this is a loose script, and this is how these thumbnail images are going to look. So then I redraw them better and bigger on with actual ink, and I blow them up. And then once I do that, I scan all that stuff, I color it digitally with the computer, and then I add the words in. It's a really weird back and forth. I'm kind of going back and forth between drawing and writing, and then drawing and writing, and since I do that, I get to kind of change the writing whenever I think it's bad or if I have a better idea. And so it's kind of a weird dance. It's different from writing a novel. It's very different.
That sounds unlike how most like comic book writers would create a script because it was really not a script.
It depends. It's because some comic book writers, if they're just a writer, then yeah, they write a script like a movie, and they give it to an artist, and then they do it. Some guys who are like me, who do both, there's some guys who, especially guys who've been in the industry for a long time, like Eric Larson. He does the Savage Dragon. He doesn't write anything. He just draws. He just draws 24 pages, and once he likes the 24 pages, then he kind of puts in the word balloons, and he does it every month. Some guys are like, well, they're a little closer to me, or they at least like will have like, okay, I think these 10 things need to happen, and then I'll draw it, and then I'll go revise. It's The more I talk to people, the more there's no like consensus. Everyone's like, if this works, you should do it.
It reminds me a lot of how like musicians, especially say Nirvana, would come up with the instrumentals before even thinking about the vocals.
Totally. And actually, I'm a big Nirvana fan too. And I play music and stuff like that. And I remember Kurt Cobain had this line. He's like, music's first, and then like lyrics are secondary. And I always thought that was the way to do it, because like I think, and I kind of include melody in music. Like you can listen to Nirvana like demos, and even like a band like U2, where the vocalist is just, they're just making up sounds that have a good melody, and then later on they're plugging the words that kind of fit those vowel sounds. And in a weird way, the comic book, I'm sort of it, I don't know, stories, I like to kind of feel them out. And so, I think I have a decent sense of like, I could do structure per se, but it's more important to have like a organic, like, okay, it feels like this should be like a fun moment or a bright moment, or this should be a kind of a sad, solitary thing. And I don't know. But again, I only have 1.5 issues that are good so far, so maybe it goes to shit real quick.
Yeah, I mean it's highly possible. How do you
Right,
print?
right.
How do you print these?
Okay, so like I found this print house in Michigan. It's called Greco Printing, and they do comic books. They do a few things, but comics is one of their main things. And years ago, I did a graphic novel with another artist, and this place was recommended to me, and I really liked their work. And when I showed it at a couple Comic Cons, people would remark that it was a good print job. So I've stuck with them the whole time. And what's cool about them too is like I could do a really small print run. Like I did an art book a couple years ago, and the art book, I wasn't sure how I was going to sell, so I got to print only 25, which is extremely low. Just I just wanted to test it out, and it took me 3 years to sell them, so I was right. Like no one wanted that book, so luckily I didn't take a dive on that. So that's how I print them out. And it's been it's interesting because I've done self-publishing in novels. I've been published by a smaller press, and I've done these comic books self-published. And I'll tell you the biggest difference between being an indie author and being an indie comic book writer or comic book creator is that self-publishing is just like the default setting for indie comics. Like no one looks down at it at all. Everyone's like, oh, of course you print it out yourself and sell it. Of course, what else are you going to do? Whereas I think novels, it's getting better, but it's definitely, some people are like, well, that's just kind of a vanity press. That's just kind of like, what are you doing? Like it's refreshing to be like, no one looks down at me at all. They're like, oh, great, good job. Like that's way to go, gumption.
Yeah, I think the stigma with self-publishing is slowly going away on like the prose side of things. But that makes
Yeah.
sense what you said though about comics. I never like thought about it. But the ones I have a few of the ones you've printed and they look so nice.
Oh, thanks,
Just
man.
just the quality is so great.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. It's really funny to make a comic book because the pages are actually 11 by 17, the actual page I draw on. So it's much much bigger than the comic you're holding. And so it's funny when you shrink it down, it looks different in a good way. It's sort of like everything gets compressed, and it's sort of tighter, and you lose some of the detail because you can't see it all huge. But it's really weird. Like I like every stage of this of making the book, but when I have it in my hand, it just feels like, oh, it's a real comic book. It's really exciting. I get a box of these in the mail, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like a real comic book I've seen on the shelf. And it's like, of course, that's what I was trying to do. But each time I see an issue, I'm super jazzed.
What type of print run did you do with this new comic?
So this one, I only printed issue one. I only printed 100 copies, and it's like for my last book, Lumen. I printed 150 copies for issue one and two, and they sold out. But then issues three and four took a big dip. It looked like,
Yeah.
and so they eventually sold out. But it took much longer. So this one, I was like, I'm gonna do a subscription service. So you can save a little money if you buy all 6 issues up front. And so that worked out okay. And so it's still, I haven't reached my 150 number from Lumen, but it's fairly steady at close to 100 right now. And so we'll see, because like a lot of times people sell you with comic books, issue one will sell really well, and then it kind of diminishes unless you have a big hit, and then it gets bigger.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna see. It's I've done some. I'm doing obviously I'm on this podcast, which is awesome. I've done a couple other things. It's really weird when you like some things will get a bunch of hits on Facebook or a bunch of likes, but I don't see any sales. And then sometimes I get a bunch of sales, and I'm like, I didn't do anything. What? Who talked about it? I don't. I just can't figure it out. I'm trying to crack the code.
Man, some of this shit makes no sense. I have a YouTube channel and I don't get any views usually. Randomly though, this review I did of a movie suddenly has almost 50,000 views and I have no idea why. Just I guess just the way it's picked up online in the fucking search engine. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you had Adam Caesar on, right? Like a while back.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and he does great on YouTube. And I remember him talking on your show about how like, yeah, sometimes me reviewing certain things, they get big, but sometimes he's like, I can't account for it. And I'm like, shit, man, I thought you had some answers, dude. Like I was looking for you to tell me what to do. Like,
Nobody knows anything.
I know, it's crazy though, right? Ugh.
Do you have a specific way besides the subscription service that you distribute these comics? Like I publish books, so I mean we go through Amazon and IndieBound and Barnes and Noble.
Right.
But what do indie comic creators have?
Yeah, so Comixology is a download site. So basically, people can buy digital copies, and so I do all my comics on that as well. And what's good about that is actually, I feel like there's a really big international audience for indie comics. Like, I have so many people. I'm not trying to even exaggerate. I have so many people from other countries who want to buy my comic, and they really want the physical comic. And I'm like, dude, like I'll send it to you, but you got to pay like $30 or $20 shipping for a $5 comic. So I think it's not a good deal. I was like, but of course you can buy it digitally, and a lot of them like will buy it digitally, but they really want it. So it's really funny. I think like internationally, indie comics are even bigger. So I do Comixology for that. I do digital comics to that. Although I also sell digital comics to Etsy. But the other big thing is I have a few shops across America, like basically the states I used to live in, where they will sell my comics, and I know the owners, and it's what I sell some comics in Florida, I sell some comics in Arizona, I sell some comics, of course, in Massachusetts here, and I think I've sold some comics once in New York, and I just didn't follow up on it, but that's it's good for exposure, but of course, since I sell at the shop, we split the money usually, so I don't really make a lot of money off of that, but hopefully I can make a fan who will be into my next project and stuff. But the thing is, like, I would love to do Amazon like print on demand, but right now they don't really have anything that seems built for individual issues. I might be able to do it for the trade paperbacks. The good news is though, I do have this thing where my last comic book, Lumen, which is like a action fantasy comic, a local shop in Massachusetts, who I'm friends with the owner. They're called Kamikaze. They're like the best comic shop in the world. This guy, they're going into, they're going
I
to,
love the name.
oh, yeah, it's great. But we've been talking for years, and they're gonna actually become a real press and try to sell their comics at all shops nationally. And so they asked me like, hey, we really want Lumen and you to be part of this. And I was like, oh, I'd love to, because most comic books are sold through Diamond Distribution, which is this company has a monopoly on all comics. So basically, if you want to order Spider-Man or Batman or Image Comics, anything most people buy in all the shops, you have to go through this one distributor. So we're going to buy advertisement and we're going to sell our comics through this. So hopefully within the next year, I'll have at least Lumen will be nationally distributed, and we'll
Hell
see if
yeah.
it sells. Yeah, I'm super excited, man. Like, obviously we're not going to make, the people at Kamikaze, my friends at the comic shop, they're putting up the money. So initially, they got to make their money back before I make anything. But right now it's not about money. It's just about like, oh, if a bunch of people actually like Lumen, that'd be great. So maybe, they'll buy the next one or whatever.
Dude, that sounds awesome. You said you did
Thanks.
some Comic Cons, right? Do you do those frequently, and what kind of luck do you have with Comic Con?
Yeah, I've done a bunch. The last couple of years, it's funny. The last couple of years, I was doing more novel stuff, and I used to go to the Comic Cons and sell my novels, and I always felt like an odd duck there. Like I remember my first novel, Nefarious Twit. I would sell at Comic Cons. I sold at New York Comic Con and Boston Comic Con, and I remember a lot of times that somebody would pick up the cover and go, "Oh, this looks really cool." I drew the cover, and then you open it up and they go, "What's all these fucking words? Where's the comic book?" I'm like, "Oh, it's a regular book," and they just like would hate me, and I'm like, "I'm sorry," and so. Like, I did that and I did well. I sold out a couple times at Boston Comic Con one year. I sold out of novels. And but when my second novel, Augmented Fourth, which came out from Word Horde, I tried to focus more on real regular bookstores and not Comic Cons. But now that I have actual comics, I'm doing I'm going to be at MICE, which is the Massachusetts Independent Comic event or something. It's like the biggest indie comic thing in Massachusetts, and I got a table, and I'm going to be hawking books there, and I might be at Tucson Comic Con, going back home for that. But Comic Cons are really fun. Like they're a weird mix. Like have you done cons? Like Comic-Con?
Yeah, I've done a few Comic Cons. I haven't done one in a few years, but I'm gonna be doing one in November in Austin. So
Oh, cool.
should be exciting. I get the
Yeah.
same thing though. Like, how come this isn't a comic? Because we only sell like novels and collections.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, I've also had some decent amount of luck with Comic Con, just because like if you go to a fest that only sells books, or
Right.
a writer focused convention, well, it's just a bunch of Facebook friends hanging out, you don't sell as much. But if you go to a place that is dedicated to fans, you seem to sell pretty okay.
And I think also there's a factor where if you or me go there with novels and it's full, everyone else is selling comic books, you stand out sometimes in a good
Yeah,
way. Yeah, 'cause
definitely.
people are like, yeah, like I definitely had people. I've had a few times where someone I feel like they were dragged there to the Comic Con. They're just a friend who was like being like polite, and they're like, "Oh, a real book? Thank God, I'll buy you a book. Just it's a real book." I'm like, "Cool, man. That's thank you."
Yeah.
Um,
I
yeah, but go ahead.
I did the San Antonio Comic Con for like 3 years, and it began pretty successful, but then it got too big, and it was so crowded no one could even stop to look at the table because you had
Huh.
like 18,000 sweaty bodies pushing you ahead. I don't
My,
know.
my big thing. I remember I was at New York Comic Con and I saw this kind of gnarly looking dude with no shoes walking around, and he had like a fedora on. I was like, "Who the fuck's this dude? Is he in cosplay? Like, what's his? He just looks kind of weird." And so he comes up to me, and eventually I go, "Oh, it's Thomas Jane, the actor." I was like, "Okay." And so Thomas Jane was like looking at my book, Nefarious Twit, and I remember he's looking at the back, and he's like, "Hey, man, this is pretty interesting." I was like, "Oh, thanks, dude." And I was just talking to him, and he had his daughter with him. She's probably 15 or so, and she was looking at some other stuff. And so eventually we talked a little bit more about my book, and I asked him about a little bit about him. And I told him like, I like your work. I didn't try to kiss his ass, but I like his work. And then eventually he sort of lingered around a while, and then he walked away. And my guy next to me in the booth is like, "Why don't you give me your book?" I was like, "Fuck that dude. He's like a millionaire. He should buy
Yeah,
my book."
he should have fucking bought
And
it.
yeah, and like it's funny, like the rest of the whole show, my friends were like, "You fucked up." I was like, "No,
No.
this guy comes in here shoeless, and he's a millionaire, and like, I'm sorry, Thomas Jane, like, if Thomas Jane, if you're listening,
Shoeless.
yeah, shoeless Thomas Jane." It's funny, actually. I talked to somebody else, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's not in the shoes." I'm like, "But it's like New York Comic Con. You should put something on your feet,
There's
right?" Like,
so much stuff on the ground he's stepping on. So
yeah.
many fluids.
Yeah, it made me think of Arrested Development when he had a little guest spot as like himself, but he's pretending to be homeless for like an acting
Yes.
thing. I'm like, is that a joke about him? Like he's just like a kind of gnarly, derelict looking dude. Like, is he self aware? Like I don't get it. I don't know.
That's so odd. I
Yeah,
do have a few things to discuss before we leave. I wanted to
sure.
talk about the bonus essays you have at the end of these issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did you
Um,
decide to do that? And just talk to me about it.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's really been fun. So basically, it all started because my last comic book, I was like, I'm gonna do a letters columns. I love letters columns, and I even thought of a really clever name. It was called Nocturnal Submissions because the book's about nighttime. I was
Ah,
like, this is right. I was like, this is fucking this. I was like, this is the pinnacle of my wit. And basically, I had to beg for a letter issue. I won, and the last one I think was David James Keaton. He just it was one of his Facebook posts about it. I just like copy and pasted it and stuck it in.
Did you
So
tell
I was like,
him?
okay, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so basically, I was like, okay, so letters aren't going to work. If I want something in the back matter for like the end papers or whatever, I need to do something different. I was like, well, I don't like relying on people. That's why I do most things myself. And I was like, well, I can't trust someone to give me a bunch of pinups because that was another thing with the last book. I got pinups, but tracking down artists is tough. I have a friend who like every book I do, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do a pinup for you," and I've done things for him, and he never comes through. I'm like, "God damn it!" And he's always supportive, and he's a
Ooh.
good guy. But I'm like, "God damn it!" So I asked the first one I asked is Dave James Keaton again, my Facebook friend, and I was like, "Dave, I'm doing this thing about special effects and movies and stuff. Like, do you want to do an essay on?" And I was like, "I'm really open. It could be about." A particular movie or special effects or horror or whatever you want, dude. And he's like, I wrote something about Jaws a long time ago. He's like, I have a baby now. I'm a little busy, but you can repurpose this. And that somehow gave me enough confidence to ask people. And so I got amazing lineup of people. I have Sonia Campbell is a filmmaker from Arizona. She used to do special effects, but now she does writing. She produces for this company called Crown Chimp, and she's a horror aficionado and super talented and great writer too. And she wrote this essay in issue 2 about Rob Bottin, and I'm super impressed with that. And then another filmmaker whose name is Sophia, I think it's Capola. Oh, I feel bad. Sophia, something very Italian. I'm so sorry, Sophia. There's Sonia Campbell and there's Sophia. It starts with a C as well, and I mix them up. But I will say this: Sophia, filmmaker, she's a director and a writer, and I think she acts in some of her own films. She wrote an essay on Phantasm, and it is super heartfelt, and it's great. And then I got a comic book creator named Adrian Johnson who wrote this essay on the Terminator, and he's like, can I like design my pages myself? I'm like, okay, dude. He did this amazing drawing of like the exoskeleton, and then did the fonts all like Terminator, like Sega Genesis
Oh
style
my
looking fonts.
god.
Yeah, it's a Prime Directive RoboCopy. Like it just looks so 80s and this awesome. And so I have that. I have Renee Pickup's going to write something for me, and she might write about The Exorcist. She said she's kind of figuring it out. And then my buddy Daniel Dockery, who's a writer for Cracked, we used to write for a British website called Heckler Spray together, and so he's a huge movie guy. And he's like, I want to write about the King Kong remake. I was like, yeah, I guess go for it, dude. I mean, I mentioned it once in the book, but he's like, I got to do this. I'm like, oh, dude, go for it. Okay, so I haven't read it yet, but he's promising me this is going to be like the piece about the King Kong remake.
Of how many?
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, but I'm sure with him it'll be amazing. The guy's he wrote this whole thing about the Pokemon Go thing, which is actually like really heartwarming. He's good. He's a good writer.
Yeah. Wow, I mean, if anyone listening to this doesn't want to immediately go subscribe to the comic, what the
I know.
don't be a Chad.
Oh my God, straight up going to say the same thing. I said, don't be a fucking Chad. I love it. I think we should do like like the Chud movie. We do like a Chad T-shirt, like sort of homage it, man.
Okay, what would it stand for?
So carnivorous. So I'm trying to think of what means neglectful and dad in the HAD. Oh, D's dad, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Alcoholic?
ooh, I like it. Alcoholic dad. Okay. Carnivore. Okay, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Next episode you come on, I'm positive you will have this completely done.
Done.
Okay. So how could someone subscribe to it? How can they buy this comic?
Thank you for asking. If you look up Tony McMillen at Etsy.com or just my name in general, you'll find my Etsy store, and you can buy individual issues. You can subscribe to all 6. You can buy them digitally. You can buy them physically. And if you buy them physically, I send out every issue with a little ink sketch of my choosing. I just make something up and I send it to you. Each issue signed. No one knows about this, but I breathe heavily somewhere inside the issue. So it could be page 3, page 7. You don't know, but you can smell it if you look for it. And that's worth money. That's eBay gold.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know this, but now, man, I'm going to be making some good money. Oh, no, I can't because you signed it directly to me. Now it's worthless.
Oh, no, dude, there's plenty of maxes.
Oh, do you think I could just scratch it out?
No, I do not.
How can folks find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me. Luckily, no one has my name, so like you can find me on Facebook. I'm just Tony McMillen. On Twitter, I'm just Tony McMillen. Um, uh, on Instagram, Instagram's cool to find because all I do is post art on Instagram, so there's no pictures of my stupid kid or my stupid life or my stupid anything. It's just drawings. So Instagram, Tony McMillen, you'll find tons of art. It's pretty fun. I drew a really sexy Metroid drawing a couple days ago. Pretty proud of it.
I'm looking it up now. Hold on.
It's a pretty good quote too. It was like it's like, oh, I see you played Metroid and like to masturbate or something like that. And she's got like kind of her butt in a robot suit and stuff and giant shoulder pads.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah. Sexy, yeah. Tony.
Yep. That's my diamond sharp wit.
Well, hey man, thanks for coming on. This was fun, and I hope this helps pick up a few copies because it deserves to be read by all the Chads in the universe.
Thank you kindly. It's very sweet of you.
All right. Bye, man.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Ghoulish. Did you like what you just heard? Want to listen to these episodes daily instead of weekly? Well, you are in luck, Daddy-O, because over on Patreon, we've announced a new stretch goal. Once we begin making 1,000 bones a month, we will begin releasing Ghoulish 5 nights a week. That's 1,000 bones, my sweet, beautiful, spooky children. Now go on over to patreon.com/PMM Publishing to pledge now, today, right this second, don't wait. You can also follow this show at GhoulishPod.com and tweet at us at GhoulishPod. Please rate and review us on iTunes, and do not forget, whatever you do, live spooky, die spooky.